Hi there, Steve here, Steve Kaufman. You'll notice that I have my new Link t-shirt on. If you want a Link t-shirt, we may be able to arrange that. My son Mark is responsible. Let me know. I want to talk about learning right now 3 languages at the same time, several languages at the same time. How do we keep them? How do we not forget them? Or what do we do when we do forget them? Because I finished my 3 months of Turkish. I went from 0 to the level that you'll see in the next video where I have an hour long. I used Zoom and I recorded the whole hour of my lesson with Dilara. You don't have to watch it all, and you may not want to watch any of it, but it's there if you want to look at it with all the problems that I had. And of course, I get a report back from Dilara, which has a number of the mistakes, words that I didn't pronounce correct. I mean, you'll see if you know Turkish that I mispronounced words, got the wrong tense, was looking for words. And she then sends me a good list of many of my mistakes so that I can review and hopefully improve over time. But it nevertheless represents what I've done in 3 months of Turkish, starting from scratch. And according to my Link statistics, I know now 7,741 words in Turkish. The way we count them at Link, every form of the word is counted as a separate word. I have created 21,000 links, that is, I have deliberately saved 21,000 words. Many of them are there. I half know them. I don't yet consider them known. They're words that I have come across. All right. I have learned 5,000 links. That means I saved these and eventually converted them to known because I felt I now knew them. I have listened to 117 hours over 3 months. So that's almost 40 hours a month. So it's more than an hour a day. I have read 185,000 words in Turkish. A lot of it is reading the same material over and over again. And I've had 15 one-hour lessons, online discussions with my tutor. There's no question that I am much better, and you'll see the last interview or lesson I did with Dilara, far better than I was earlier. I still make a lot of mistakes. I search for words. I think about what's the correct form. I can't remember. I mispronounce. All these things, because learning a language is a matter of getting used to the language, and I'm not yet used to it. But the more things we become comfortable with, the more things we see, the more things we discover, the more things we're able to focus on. So and of course, the bulk of my learning has been connected to the mini stories. And because I believe you first have to get the language pounded into you before you can sort of make sense of the grammar. Now, I am on an experiment here where I'm going to do 3 months. I've now finished 3 months of Turkish from scratch. The next, I'm going to go back to my Arabic for 3 months. After that, I do my 3 months of Persian, and then I go back to Turkish. All right, that's the plan. However, because my wife and I are going to Croatia and then to Spain in the month of September, I decided I would take a month off from my Middle Eastern languages and prepare myself a little bit for Croatian. So we have Serbian mini stories at Link. So I have now started listening to these Serbian mini stories. All I want to achieve is some sense of the language for when I'm there, situations where I might need it, or just to be able to read and understand what people are saying. I have limited goals, all right? But I am so much more confident now because we have the mini stories, that I believe I can get to at least a situation where I can actually have a conversation after 2 weeks in Croatian. Time will tell. Maybe I'm a bit optimistic. One further comment. I believe you have to first pound the language into you. The mini stories are an excellent way to do this. I believe that I had a better conversation in Turkish after 3 months than I did in Czech after 6 months, even though I had had Russian and therefore was familiar with the grammar and the structure of Slavic languages, whereas Turkish is completely different from anything I've experienced before. And the reason is the mini stories and the fact that Link is faster, better, more convenient. Now, so the idea is with the mini stories is it pounds the language into you. gets you used to the language. Now you're in a better position to observe what's happening by, say, looking up grammar rules. Or I happen to have bought for Croatian this Assimil Guide de Conversation, which is very well done. And I'm going to get more of these. Because once you have invested in the mini stories, in pounding the language into you, of course, that doesn't mean that you can just turn the language on at any time. I've had the experience. I've said I studied Ukrainian for a long time without many stories, but listened to a lot of material in Ukrainian. But then spent 2 weeks working on the Slovak mini stories in Link. When I got to the Polyglot Conference in Bratislava, I couldn't speak Ukrainian. I could. A week later, I was in Lviv speaking Ukrainian without a problem. However, well, with problems, but able to communicate. But the Slovak effort had pushed the Ukrainian aside. And I know today that if I were to meet someone who speaks Czech or Polish, even though I put a lot of effort into those languages, I can't produce it. Given a few hours, I'd be able to produce it. Same, even more so with Greek and Romanian. But I know that in those languages, I have pounded the language into me. At one stage, I did. And so that's where I'm very curious to see. I think these little guides de conversation are very good because they have a lot of the sort of basic conversational things that you would need in a variety of situations, which all by themselves would be very difficult to remember. However, if they come after you have done this massive listening and reading, then you're able to retain them. I know I tried to do this for Vietnamese, picked up a little guide, I couldn't do a thing. However, I have the feeling now that because I've done a number of Slavic languages and I've listened to about 10 or 12 of the mini stories in Croatian or Serbian, that this now is valuable. And so I'm going to go and buy this for Greek and Romanian and Czech and Polish, the languages that I'm, feel so, tongue-tied in if I try to use them. Now, so that's just on that score. So the goal here is, so I finished my Turkish. Now I'm going to do Arabic starting in 1st of October. And I'm going to try to be disciplined so that I go 3 months with, one language and stay with that language for that month, then go to another language. I'm hoping that what's going to happen is, obviously I'm going to slip. So I go back to Arabic. I will have forgotten a lot. Already now I have trouble expressing myself in Arabic, or for that matter, Persian. When I was doing my Persian, I could go into the stores here in Vancouver and chat people up in Persian, have sort of limited discussions. Now I can't do that. But I know that when I go back to the language, it's kind of like cross-country skiing, First time you plow through the trail, if the snow is deep, it's hard work. When I go back over the same material again, I'll be coasting along. And I believe that I'll quickly get back to where I was, maybe within a week in Arabic. Then the challenge is to plow forward, because I have a sense of the language now. I can always review some of the grammar rules, but I need more words because I want to listen to podcasts, political discussions, and things of that nature. So my goal with the Arabic will be to move my vocabulary level up. The difficulty is finding that good content that does that. And in Arabic, that's difficult because the movies produced in Egypt are not in standard Arabic. So I don't know how I'm going to do that, but the goal is that I will sort of go back to the language, Arabic, for 3 months. Then after that, Persian, spend a week to get back to where I was. And then I have to plow forward to get to that next level. And maybe these little conversation guides can be useful for me when I need to quickly refresh for a particular situation. Of course, in standard Arabic, there's no place where people speak naturally in that language. This is part of my sort of interest in the whole polyglot thing. In schools, they teach one language. Typically, well, not everywhere, but in Japan they teach English, and Canadian English language schools they teach French, and vice versa. And I think we are capable of learning more than one language. Whatever we invest in learning that language stays with us. All right, even if we can't remember it, we have invested in that. It's there. The mini stories are still there if I want to use them to refresh. So that the fact that I can't produce it immediately doesn't bother me. It's a fact of life. Those languages that I know well, I can produce them. But the languages that I haven't achieved that level, that I haven't spoken enough, it's very difficult for me to suddenly generate them, right? But this is therefore an experiment. So can I, over a period of, let's say, 2 years or so, working on 3 languages separately, get them all to a level where I feel I can comfortably speak? In other words, close to a B2 level. I don't know if that can be done, but that's the experiment. One of the things that I think is going in my favor is every time you're trying to learn something, and you're staying with it, there comes a point where you have a sense of frustration, you have a sense that you aren't learning anything, you're beating your head against a brick wall. So if I go 3 months with one language, as much as I'm reluctant to leave my Turkish, I'm actually very much looking forward to getting back to Arabic. So that this element of anticipation and curiosity and novelty, it's not new because I was there before, but I'm going to it again. So because our brains need repetition, obviously, but there's a sort of declining efficiency in the sort of repetition, staying with one thing, trying to learn the most frequent 1,000 words of whatever language. After a while, you're not learning anything. So that this introducing the new language and staying there for 3 months and then going to another language and then back to the first language introduces novelty, freshness, curiosity. And so I'm wondering whether that will have advantages. Of course, the disadvantage is that I'm going to slip in each of these languages. So that's what I wanted to say about learning more than one language. I will be at the Polyglot Conference in Tokyo, in Fukuoka, 18th to 20th of October. If we can plan meetups in Japan, let me know. I'll do a separate video on that just to see if people are interested in meeting up in Japan. So a little bit of a longer video, and if you are interested, you can have a look at me struggling with Turkish. I didn't edit the video, I just put it up. I just saved the whole hour, and you can have a look. All right then, bye for now.